Run the ball, Nick. Run the football. Hey, the noise got through to Nick, because guess what? Boy, did we run the football in Detroit. All right, let's get into the numbers. What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, Division Rivals? This is Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, we're talking about personnel frequency groupings. So we're going to talk about how often we did things like we played 11-man over 12-man, 13-man, and then run the pass ratio. And we're going to break down why some of these numbers and why some of the things you may not think about play a big role in stuff like this. So to begin with, on the season for the Philadelphia Eagles, guys, we rank 9th in the NFL in 11-man utilization, which is a big difference from last year. So we're now one of the top 10 11-man personnel teams in the league, which is not surprising because we kind of projected and predicted this coming into the season. We're at 68% currently, and to be honest with you, the game in Detroit kind of swung this down a little bit, to be honest. But also at the same time, in 12-man utilization, we're tied for 12th in the league, guys, with 23%. 13-man utilization, we're tied for 5th in the league at 7%. Add them together, we're playing about 30% of our snaps with multiple tight ends on the field compared to almost 70% with 3 wide receiver sets. The difference coming out of things like 21-man personnel, think 1990s football, guys. 2 backs, 1 tight end. It was the traditional offensive set back in the 90s, late 80s into the 90s. And then you have some spread concepts like one personnel that kind of accounted for a play here or there. And then the Eagles also did some funny things like 2 personnel where they put 3 receivers and 2 tight ends on the field. 3 plays, 1% on the season. But what I want to talk about is what happened Sunday. Maybe give context to why it happened. And what can we learn from it going forward? Because I think those are the things that matter, right, guys? Like, we want to know, what is the identity of this team? Like, what is a tangible identity that we can work towards that might win football games in the NFL? Allow us to evaluate and grow players, and at the same time stay competitive in enough games to keep the TV turned on. So, last week in Detroit, we know we're going against a team that you could abuse them along the line of scrimmage, or you had a team that had some injuries in the secondary, right? I was fearful we were going to try to attack the secondary because they really were kind of throwing out there some shoestring guys to try to cover. And to my amazement and to my surprise, Nick Sirianni took the advice of his offensive lineman, Jason Kelsey and the guys, and said, look, we can beat these guys at the line of scrimmage. Let's not do anything foolish. Let's just go win this football game. Let's go dominate it. And they did. So by the numbers, the personnel utilization, 11-man personnel, we went from 68% on the season to 44%. 12-man personnel, we went from 23% on the season to 42%. 13-man personnel, we went from 7% on the season to 15% in last week's game. In total, we ran 35 plays with multiple tight ends on the field as compared to 27 plays with 3 wide receiver sets out there, with 11-man personnel, essentially, guys. So, right away, what we know here is that it's a little surprising because we traded Zach Ertz to go into this heavier utilization than we're used to seeing with tight ends. During the Zach Ertz trade, I thanked him for everything he did in Philadelphia, guys, and I'm still grateful. We got a Super Bowl ring in large part for some of the plays that man made in the Super Bowl. But I did say I felt like there would be opportunities in the running game once you started to install guys like Jack Stoll along with Dallas Goedert being the featured guys, because those 2 guys are far better run-blocking tight ends than Zach Ertz. Not that Zach Ertz didn't give you effort out there, but those guys are better at it. Even Jack Stoll in this young career still got a lot to prove, but I definitely think he's a little bit of an uptick in terms of run blocking compared to a Zach Ertz. So I'm not overly shocked that we saw more running attempts, that they ticked up a little bit. I am shocked at exactly what happened, though, guys, because here's the deal. We ran a total of 62 offensive plays. We accounted for 46 runs, 16 passes, a 74-26 ratio in favor of the running game. Probably not what we thought was going to come out of this, right? However, total yards, right? When you look at total yards, the time of screen, all that kind of stuff, it tells a bigger story. So what we learned here is we went 350 total yards to 228 to Detroit, dominate them in total yards. Time of possession, 35 minutes to their 25 minutes. More than a 10-minute disparity in the time of possession. Dominating a team. I mean, that's hurting a team. You're controlling the ball, you're outgaining them. Now we're not 2 for 1ing them in terms of the the total yards, but I mean it's a dominating performance. 236 yards on the ground from those 46 rushing attempts, guys. A 5.6 yards per play average. 5 out of 10 on third down, 50% compared to their 36%, 5 out of 14. And then here's where I think things get interesting, right? To begin with, we know this team, because it's young, it struggles to get ahead of teams if it falls behind. I think it's important for Nick to realize that you got to try to get the lead and you got to try to stick to the running game because there are some very telling signs to this, right? So number one is try to play to get the lead, man, because we get a little way too far outside when we start falling behind a little bit. But the number two thing that I think this tells me is we ran the ball 46 times, and I don't think that's replicatable in every game, guys. I mean, that was a very particular team that had some very particular problems from a personnel perspective, from injuries and everything going on. But 2 penalties, guys. We were the most penalized team in the league, and we came out of this game with only 2 penalties. That's telling to me. That's telling to me. Grab the lead. Run the ball not just for the development of your quarterback to help him out, not just for the development of your wide receivers and some of these young spread concept players that are coming in from smaller schools and conferences that just don't run a ton of traditional offenses, but run the ball to also help the offensive line out, to also help out, procedural penalties, to keep your defense from being on the field for so long that it's almost impossible that they don't start trying to jump the snap counts and stuff to try to get off the field. To me, there's a bigger story behind all this, which is staying balanced with your run game. It does more than just development. It helps you with the game management, right? There was only really one issue I heard anyone really raise about Nick Sirianni, which was on the first possession, coming out there on first down, having your quarterback throw the ball literally from behind the goal line. A lot of people kind of took issue saying, like, hey, we should have probably picked up a yard or two before doing that. I don't have a problem with it just because I saw the concept and the scheme of the play design. It's meant to be a quick read and get the ball out. So, to me, that doesn't bother me as much, but I certainly understood. But the greater point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that from a play design, game management standpoint, it helped us keep the penalties down. It helped keep the defense fresh, right? It helped us gain the lead. It helped us not expose a quarterback to too much utilization within the offense. Look, man, you can't build the entire offense around the identity of one single player and have that person account for over 80% of everything that's happening out there. Especially when he's only a guy who's only played a little hands over a little 10 games here. It's not reasonable. But the other thing I want to talk about is, and I think this is the bigger point for going into the Chargers game, I want to see at least 20-plus carries. I think you have to stick to it. I don't think you need to go as high as 40-some carries because I think teams will start zoning in on that. They'll start bringing people in the box to get +1 in the running game on you and shut it down. And by the way, we should allow them to do that. We should force teams into doing that. But the bigger point I'm going to make here, guys, is that the defense has to play hand in hand with the offense. You can't keep running the ball. Or it's not that you can't keep running the ball. Very few coaches are going to stick to the running game. If you start getting down by double-digit points, even if the game is not out of hand yet, even if the game is still attainable, it seems like a lot of coaches automatically hit that panic button when it goes down to double digits, and they start really falling into, okay, like we'll supplement the running game through quick passes and things like that. We'll try to get the quarterback into rhythm, and we'll try to strike on a couple of plays. It seems to be like the go-to for like 85% of coaches in the NFL. The defense has to bring pressure. The defense has to play hard. We cannot have anything go out of sync, anything go out of balance, because I think then you're just poking the bear. You're asking for us to abandon the running game if something like that happens. And that's the bigger part, is I don't think Detroit had the weapons to hurt us defensively. This team does. This team has a couple of really good offensive football players. The Chargers do. So we're going to have a defense that's not too passive in its zone, right? Linebackers that are not waiting for offensive linemen to reach the second level and engage them before they start trying to become part of a play. We need to have these linebackers flowing downhill the way they did against Detroit. We need to have the same kind of game plan to where on third down and you got them backed up, you bring pressure. Bring pressure. Go get them. Stunts, twists from the defensive line. Don't just let them cue in and know that our guys are going to be standing right in this spot. So this is where the double teams need to come. Stunt, twist, do things to create matchups. I think it's bigger than what people are thinking, right? It's related to the defensive performance. You know, the way that we manage the game is related to running the football. Bringing guys along slowly, like force teams to make us throw. Take the run away by bringing those extra people in the box and make Jalen Hurts make the correct read and hit receivers. That's how you grow the quarterback, right? These are the things I'm looking at. Reduction in penalties, outgaining your opponent, controlling the time of possession, feeding off of the defensive energy and it's the way it was flowing to the football. It was more than just running the football that was pretty last week. Yes, it helped, and it looked great on paper with that 46 runs. 37 runs alone from the running backs, 13 from Gainwell, 12 from Boston Scott, and 12 from Jordan Howard. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's got to do with the game plan. It's got to do with all three units playing in unison or in sync with one another. It's got to do with minimizing, penalties. All that stuff combined to create the atmosphere that led to a huge blowout victory. This is a better opponent, but it's not nearly as daunting a task as it looked like 3 weeks ago. They're coming back down to reality. That is a young quarterback that is incredibly talented. He's still young. He's still learning just like Jalen is. I want to see all three phases, guys. All three phases. I don't know if we're going to see more 11-man. I do think that part of the reason we dipped in 11-man utilization is because Jalen Reagor went down because he got the injury at the ankle. I don't know if he's going to be back. I heard it's not a long-term injury. It was just a little tweaking of the ankle, so we'll see if he's back. We'll see what the Eagles do if he's not back. I mean, I think part of it was the fact that we just were running out of receivers. We had a tweaked back with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, so I don't know if they're going to call up a Hightower or Johnson's on the practice squad. They had Kane, who used to play with Sirianni. Maybe they'll call one of these guys up so they can utilize a little bit more 11-man personnel. But I'm interested to see what they do here, man. I really think that the Eagles should look into the power game. Single back power, which is somewhat of what the NFL is going to. And then build off of that from play action passing. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention. Leave your comments down below. Let me know, what do you think? What do you want to see from the offense, guys? Tell me your thoughts here, guys. Tell me what you thought about last week's performance and what the running game did to the overall scheme of things. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention. I'll catch you guys on the next video.